Action.
Welcome back to the Island Docs. Today we have a very, very special guest with us. This is Dr. Adams, who's here to tell us a bit about depression. Let's hear a round of applause for Dr. Adams. So, Dr. Adams, introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Zalika Adams. I'm a recently 3-week retired as Vice President of Behavioral Health at Palladia, which is a community-based organization where I ran all of the substance abuse, HIV, criminal justice, domestic violence, and HIV programs.
Wow.
In addition, I am assistant pastor of a church in the Bronx. And so I integrate psychotherapy with spirituality in my work, both as an administrator and as a clinician.
Oh, that's very, very good.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Dr. Adams, I mean, on the topic of depression, it's one of those taboo subjects in the Caribbean where with a diagnosis of depression, people are confused. They don't know if you're faking it. They don't know if you're just sad. They just say, why don't you just be happy, get yourself out of this funk? I mean, explain to us why that won't work or your take on depression.
Well, I think depression is a very complicated situation. There are many schools of thought. There are some schools of thought that say that depression is a chemical imbalance in the brain. Mm-hmm. And so therefore, when people have that chemical imbalance, the result is this sad affect.
Yes.
And there's a list of symptoms that go with that. Mm-hmm. That's one category of depression, and that's major depression, which people live with, and it's very, very serious. And we see many examples of people who go untreated with major depression. And of course, the ultimate expression of that is one taking one's life. But I do want to say that there are other stages of depression and other categories of depression. So as a therapist, there are times that I have treated people who have a form of depression called dysthymia. And some people would call it depression light,
Yes.
Yes.
where it's episodic, it's for a period of time. It could be related to a loss or a trauma. It could be related to the change of weather, seasonal affective disorder, which is a form of depression. And then there are some people who, for whatever reason, life has treated them in such a way that their outlook on life is sad and gloomy.
How is this different from, say, grief, like you've lost a lost one? How can you definitely say, this is a depressive episode as opposed to like grief, like the loss of a parent?
I am so glad you asked me that question, because many times people make very clear distinctions between the two. But grief is an aspect of depression, and it's triggered by a loss of any kind, whether it's real or imagined, as is depression. I'll give you an example. I've worked with many people coming from other parts of the world. And for example, someone loses all of their papers.
Yes.
That can trigger a depressive episode. Now, to someone not understanding what those papers mean,
Yeah.
they can say, well, what is it? You just lost your wallet. You just get a replacement. It's not that simple. Yeah. If your documentation papers were in that wallet, your passport was in that wallet, and a picture of your mom who you have not seen because you can't go back to your country for a while is in that wallet, and you've lost it. It's not just the concrete of the wallet, but it's what all of that means to that person. And that can trigger a major depressive episode. And so grief and depression are both triggered by loss, whether it's real or imaginary.
So somebody who's going through this type of severe depressive episode, what are some things that they should do to try and cope with this instance that they're having this depression?
Well, of course, if you have major depression, then it's clearly indicated that one might need medication. Now, there are many schools of thought about medication.
Yes.
And many times people want miraculous results with the medication.
Yeah.
It does not happen that way. The medication many times just takes the edge off It does not lift the depression. Right? It takes the depression from being excruciatingly painful every second of the day to being able to just live with it and function. Depression and medication and therapy must go hand in hand, whether there are different forms of therapy. Now, a lot of the literature suggests that cognitive behavioral therapy, which teaches people how to train their thoughts, is one way to go. I'm trained as a Gestalt therapist, and a Gestalt therapist is a therapist that really deals with people in the here and now. It looks to integrate the mind, body, spirit split, and it's a different use of self as a therapist. And so I've had success working with people who are depressed. Now, do they walk out skipping? No.
Okay.
But do they feel that life maybe is worth living? Then, do they actually leave my office skipping out, oh, happy day? No, not necessarily. But they do leave over a period of time. Now, I have to say, it's very hard work to get to the core sadness, to the core issue, to the core wound, so to speak. It takes time to get to that. But I have had instances where people have felt that life was worth living and that they were able to reclaim a smile. They were able to reclaim hugging their children again. They were able to get up off the couch. Because you have to remember that a depressed parent creates depressed children. And it's very, very, very important to understand that depression and anger are first cousins. A depressed person is an angry person.
Wow.
And so depression is anger turned inside out. And so many times what we find is that the depressed person is so afraid of their anger, they turn the anger inside, almost into their musculature, because they find it safer to be sad than to be angry.
Wow, that's pretty mind-blowing stuff, Dr. Adams. We have to take a break now, but when we come back, we'll continue hearing about depression and how it's linked to addiction. Stay tuned.